I'll be your host for this evening's program, the After the Budget event. We will be talking about highlights of the budget, how it impacts on you, the consumer, and how it impacts on the business community. So joining me today are my two guests, Curtis Williams, Chairman of the Tobago Division of the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce, as well as Anslem Richards, Chief Technical Advisor at the Tobago House of Assembly. Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Right, so first things first, that's drawing everybody's attention, the Tobago allocation. Can we get some feedback, especially from you, Mr. Richards?
Well, good evening, Tobago. Good evening, wherever you are. I think the Tobago allocation of 5% reflects a significant improvement on Tobago's allocation over the years, and it is now realigned with what this administration, the current administration of the teacher, have been advocating for the last 4 years with the last administration in Port of Spain, that the Tobago population has grown to 5.1% of the national population. And back in 2000, when the DRC ruling came, our population at the time was 4.03% of the national population, and that is where the bottom end of the DRC formula was set. So that is the per capita share. And if you recall, in 2021, the central government recognized that the Tobago population had increased by 25%. And based on that, the central government under the last PNM administration changed the size of the Tobago government by 25%, increasing the number of assemblymen from 12 to 15. So that's a 25% growth. And therefore, if your population grew by 25% and it requires you to increase your size of your government by 25% to service the population, you cannot leave the revenue base that you are giving to the island at the same 4.03%. So we were being underfunded. And if you take 25% of 4.03 is 1, and if you add 1 to 4, you get 5.03. So the maths don't lie. So at the end of the day, what the current administration in Port of Spain has done is really take on board those arguments and those data that we have been providing to the last administration for the last 4 years. This Chief Secretary had written to the Prime Minister then, Dr. Keith Rowley, putting all this argument and all this data and all these facts, pointing out to him that his administration said that the population have increased by 25%, and he have changed the size of the government. And they continue to underfund Tobago at 4.3% and 4 And this administration in Port of Spain, with our conversation with them, they understood the need to address the DRC bottom percentage point up to 5 going up. And therefore, that is what is reflected in the allocation. More than that, this administration have developed a comprehensive development planning pathway for Tobago, and the minister referenced it in his budget. So there is a comprehensive plan as to where we want to go with the island. And therefore, it was very easy and comfortable for this administration in Port of Spain to say, these people in Tobago know what they're doing and they know where they're going with this island. Give them their fair share of the budget.
So Port of Spain had a plan for Tobago and how they're going to use, or you all would have agreed on a plan on how to use those funds.
Well, the THA has prepared, the Farley Augustine administration has prepared a development planning pathway for Tobago 2025 to 2045, a 20-year plan, which we would have shared with the central government, the Minister of Finance. And they recognize that we are clearly on a path to the growth and transformation and the development of the island and its people. So therefore, when you put all those facts together, it was very difficult for any administration outside of the PNM in Port of Spain to give Tobago less than 5% of the budget. Because the arguments and the numbers were strong.
Right, but looking at the part where it says, okay, you've given 5% of the national budget, but you're also given a further 763 million. Now, that is at the discretion of the ministries. Is it how is that going to work? Because you can have creeping inside of their politics, or maybe some other promises that's going to be broken. How exactly did the discussion pan out when it came to that 763 million?
Right. So we can't escape the politics, because life and living is about politics in the world now, especially with Donald Trump in the White House. But that said, what happens if you understand the setup of the national government? The THA Act provides 32 areas of responsibility for the THA. So there are other areas in Tobago that has the responsibility falls under the central government. And more than that, the state enterprises like WASA, T&Tech, the police service, fire service, the airport authorities, all those are national entities that operate in the Tobago space, and the line ministry for those entities do have expenditure on those activities in the Tobago space. So that is what that 700 plus million is referring to. But more than that, there are some development components within the 700 and something million dollars that they are speaking about. You recall, I think it was last week or the week before, there was the whole issue with the water supply in Tobago.
Yes.
And therefore, we are not experiencing the level of rainfall that we normally experience at this time. And what that is pointing to is the effects of climate change. And therefore, we have to start thinking ahead, especially given the fact that our economy is tourism driven. We can't bring visitors here and they can't bathe. They might bathe in the sea, but when they go to the hotel, they'll be able to flush and do the sanitary things and all of that. And therefore, the conversation has started. And I think some of the provision in that 700 and something million dollars is to start scooping out the construction of a desalination plant.
And is that on the cards, or is that being talked about in any sort of circles anywhere, whether Port of or Scarborough?
Well, I'm saying that is part of the conversation with the Tobago House Assembly and the line ministry, which is the Ministry of Public Utility. So that's the conversation, because we can't wait, because we don't know where climate change is going in terms of our water supply, and we have not integrated in our development processes the rainwater harvesting, and that is something that we are discussing also as part of the development. So if you're doing a new construction, then you have to do a cistern under your house and harvest the rainwater, because we can't just have it running off the roof and into the drain. And then when the rain is not falling, we have no water to wash the yard or to wash the car or to bathe or to wash. And therefore we have to rethink the way we do construction. Even our commercial enterprises that are doing new construction will have to put those tanks below the building. So when the rain is here with us, we can store the water. And when there's no water, we have water stored that we can use.
I get you. So what does business think of the allocation that Tobago got in the budget?
Well, we in the business sector, we applaud the initiative of the central government to give the Tobago Assembly the much needed funds that they wanted. They have been screening for many years for additional funding, and now they got the additional funding, and we are happy about that. Our main concern now is how we're going to spend that funding. And that is what we ask upon the Secretary for Finance to come to us now and let us see the plans and how we're going to spend that funding, whether on development project or recurrent expenses, as the case may be. Yes, but we want to see that roadmap as to how it's going to be spent, that we have that kind of accountability and transparency throughout the process of that much fund that they got, because it's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. I saw in the budget as well, too, there was a lot of things for the business community and not just for the average consumer. One of the things that popped out at me was the fact that you're getting a reduction on the super gasoline. Expound on that for me. How does that help business when it comes to that reduction?
Well, the reduction in the fuel price will help the normal man who have to fill his vehicle with super gasoline. Business, we use diesel. Most of our trucks and lorries is diesel we use most of the times. But like the taxi drivers, most of them will use the super, and the guys and them who have to move people from transporting even in normal vehicles. But these days, most vehicles come in now that you have to use premium. And if you don't use premium, you know the damages you will have on the vehicles. So we've seen that to the average man, the premium, the reduction, super. Yes, in the fuel price will assist the average man on the streets. But for business, as I said, most of our vehicles are diesel, and that will not do much for us in the business sector. And it doesn't make sense to try to change our vehicles to gasoline, because at the end of the day, it don't work out. The diesel vehicles will do the heavy work and do all the heavy lifting, so you will start to stay diesel anyhow.
So did it make more sense then just to leave the price as is, because the super just applies only to a group of people in the country?
Well, the group of people it applies to is the masses. So that's why they're all championing it. They will appreciate it. The working class, so we put it that way, because they have to use a vehicle, and most of the vehicles are super. They will be the one, and they are the majority, so that it kind of fits them well. But for us in business, my trucks is not gas trucks. They are all diesel. All my vehicles are diesel. Even my personal vehicle and all is diesel. So it won't help us as business folks at all in the long run. No.
But what was the rationale for actually putting that on the table, a reduced price?
Right. So if you understand how the fuel prices is set in Trinidad and Tobago, it has to do with the subsidy. So when the prices of gas is high, and you subsidize it, I mean the subsidy is higher. So when the price of oil drops, that means you pay less in the subsidy, and then you have the flexibility to drop the price so that consumers can benefit. I think that's the model that the minister is moving. But how the economy works, if the average man, as my friend is saying, is benefiting from a reduction in fluid price, what that means is that that individual or those individuals will have more money in their pocket to come by a supermarket and buy. So you go benefit.
I get you.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you have to understand how this circular economy works. So the man get more money, you go buy more cheese by here, you go buy more thing for your picnic and then for eat. So the thing is not static, it's a very dynamic economic system. The ecosystem moves in all directions when you pump energy into it. So the reduction in the fluid prices will benefit him. He will tell me next month that his sales went up by 50%.
Really?
You know,
That'll be really good, right?
If we could measure it.
you know, so there will be benefits, because you see it leaves more cash on the table of the average man to do more things in terms of consumption, and then you see the distribution sector will pick up in terms of higher purchases because less is being spent, and they have more traveling because people can now travel more. So the net off effect will permeate throughout the economy.
What was one of or some of the goodies? I have to say somewhere because I lost track somehow, somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, what are some of the goodies that came out for the business community and that you went like, wow, okay, this is really good? Was the VAT changes a big wow for you, the business community?
Well, I welcome the change in thinking about removing the VAT system and bringing a sales tax system. That would augur well for a lot of business. Or most of us, because the VAT system is a very complicated system, and there's so much loopholes in the VAT system. There are lots of loopholes in it, and I think it's a better system using the sales. You'll be able to measure so much from that, and really know consumption and so forth, as compared to the VAT system. Is a system where there's too much loopholes in it. It's so complicated. Sometimes even the VAT administration people don't even know some of the computation of the VAT system. It's a very, very complicated one as it is. So that's a nice one. For Tobago itself, the advent of opening up the new terminal building and the direct flights coming in Tobago from the North America, and that supported that the central government want to give to accommodation to the hotels, the construction of the Marriott and the Elephant Tree, and there may be other players on the ground waiting, you know.
Yeah.
So as soon as the Marriott turn soil or the Elephant Tree open, trust me, I tell you, there may be 2 or 3 other big leaders or big brands that's waiting to come, and we need the brand names. We need the brand names in Tobago, because with the new terminal building opening, it's a beautiful terminal building, airlift coming in, we have to put these folks somewhere, and we can't go in the 1-star and 2-star accommodation we have now. They will want 3 and 4 stars. So I think that whole system going to start spinning, and then we, the people, now have to be ready for it, because I don't think we are ready as yet. So the next thing is to get us in the state of readiness. And I mean the people in Tobago, the Tobagonians have to be ready for the change, that big change that's going to come. So come 2026, we have to look at producing more cooks, more chefs, more managers. You know, our taxi drivers, we have to get people to do logistics, we have to get warehousing. All these things will have a ripple effect, and so that's hence the reason why we have to get ourselves in a state of readiness. The financial institutions have to understand that model. So when a guy comes to you and give you a proposal of probably putting up a warehouse or increasing the capacity of his farm, you must be in a state of readiness to allow him to make that happen, and don't give him the hindrance that you normally will get the pushback. All right, so, so I believe that's still going to start in 2026, and you will see the buzz that will be happening in Tobago.
Who has to take the front move when it comes to getting that airport going and saying, okay, you do this, you do that? Who does that?
Well, listen, the project, the airport terminal project is a project that is managed by the central government, and I think more directly by NITCO. NITCO. So it's a central government project, and that falls within the outfitting and operationalization fall within the 700 and something, the cost that will give effect to the commissioning of that airport for not practical, actual operation, because the minister was very clear in the adjective he wanted to use to describe what they're going to do in the second quarter of fiscal 2026 as it relates to that terminal building that is going to be actually operationalized in the second quarter of fiscal 2026, which is between January and March.
And let me come in there. Is that going to take too long? Quarter of 2026, quarter. Second quarter or first quarter? First quarter.
So that's between January and March. I think
first quarter.
Yeah. So it will be ready, I think, for the peak carnival season and all of that. But get as it may, we have to ensure that all the ducks are lined up and all the technical and electronic systems are working, because you know you're talking about air traffic control and all of that. And I think they just paved the apron. So they are doing the work. So that is a central government project, and I think the cost to take that to that place of actual functionality is embedded in the projected 700 plus million to be spent by other ministries in Tobago, right? So that's. I want to make a point on something that my colleague mentioned about the business community is waiting.
And hold that thought. We're going to go to a break. Day after the budget event, we are live on Channel 5 and live on Tobago Channel 5 YouTube, as well as Tobago Channel 5 Facebook page. We take a short break. When we come back, lots more. Hold that thought.
Vodel Supermart and Pharmacy. Almost everything, almost anything, almost anytime, almost every day. We in every season for every reason. Vodel Supermart and Pharmacy. Almost everything you want from a pharmacy. Just ask our pharmacist. Well, almost. We are here to serve all of you all of the time. Vodel Supermart and Pharmacy. 141 Chauvin Road, Buku. Call our pharmacy on 610-7634 or our supermart on 768-0723 and 766-0476. Vodel Supermart and Pharmacy.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash in transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
For 10 years, Pulse 89.5 FM has been the beat that moves Tobago. From the latest hits to the voices of the community, we bring the island's rhythm to life. Every day, every hour. Stay locked to Pulse 89.5 FM, the beat of Tobago. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram and stream us worldwide on the TuneIn app.
The Tobago Blue Food Festival 2025 is on October 19th, 2025. Enjoy live entertainment, cultural performances, and the best local vibes with good people. Don't miss the festival where food meets culture. The Tobago Blue Food Festival 2025, Sunday, October 19th at Bloody Bay Recreational Grounds. Check out their website at www.tobagofestivalscommission.com or follow on social media at Tobago Festivals for more.
Cathedral Credit Union is celebrating big. Get up to $81,000 at just 0.8% interest with our anniversary loan. And because Christmas is in the air, we're spreading cheer with up to $60,000 at only 1%. Visit cathedralcutt.com or call 23569.
Welcome back to After the Budget event. We are speaking with Mr. Anslem Richards as well as Mr. Curtis Williams. And before we take the break, we had a little point that we were on. Have you ever wondered how much, or if in fact, when the THA asks for a certain amount of funds, do they actually get what they want? So we're going to put that question to Mr. Richards. How much of what you asked for you got when the national budget rolled out? Because you would have submitted budget estimates in June this year. So,
okay, so in our June document, the THA requested an estimated budget expenditure of $3.7 billion. All right, so we got 2.961, so we could round that out for the purpose of this conversation to $3 billion. So we just was down by $700 million roughly. So, and that's the most impressive and most handsome allocation Tobago has received in the history of the THA, and more so in the history of the DRC recommendation. And that's a massive improvement. That amounts to nearly $400 million increase over what we received last year. And that is happening in a time when we see significant cash flow challenges for the national government. But it all goes back to the point I made earlier about the fair share. Because what this 5% represented is each individual in the country, Trinidad and Tobago, getting their dollar share of the total budget pie. Tobago, every Tobagonian, this represented $1 for every Tobagonian from every $100 that could be spent in the country. So what this actually is saying, the 5% is saying to us, is that out of every $100 that is programmed to be spent in fiscal 2026, Tobago gets $5. That's all. That is simple dollar and cents mathematics of this budget, right? And the other part with the $700 and something million, they are saying that they have the airport to take care of, they have police, soldiers, what have you, Coast Guard, and those ministries and agencies that WASA, all of them, will be spending $700 and something million in Tobago. What we at the THA have to do is to work in a more nimble and more intentional way to ensure that the $700 and something million is spent in Tobago, and not a cent that was budgeted to spend in Tobago and go back in Port of Spain. So that's our responsibility as an administration in Tobago, by working closely with the ministries and the agencies that are earmarked and are budgeted to have these expended in Tobago. We have to hold them to account. So that's another kind of oversight responsibility I will say the THA has as it relates to this proposed expenditure of $700+ million in Tobago, to ensure that Tobagonians benefit to the tune of $700 and
So you are saying all the plans, all the projects listed in the budget estimates which THA submitted in June would be achieved?
Of course. We submitted a budget, and I wanted to make that point because my friend Curtis here saying that he want the secretary to come back and tell him how she go spend the money. But the secretary told the world before how she go spend the money, and Tanku repeated it in the budget presentation, all the focus area. If you go to the THA budget in June, you will hear here she focusing on 6 strategic areas for development. Tourism and the creative sector, like Carnival and all of them, and all of them make plenty of money for Carnival, right? Agriculture, infrastructure, digital technology, human capital development, education and training, micro, and then you again, micro, small and medium enterprise sector, right? So that is the focus area. We propose to make an investment in the tourism sector in the sum of $150 million, because tourism, and we have made a case in Port of Spain that tourism is prime and ready. You know, when they say the gun prime and ready, when the Prime Minister was campaigning, she said, load up your matic and empty the clip. Tourism in Tobago is ready. Load up the clip and empty it, so we go deal with the forex problem. So if we do the investment, Tobago tourism sector has not been viewed as the platform for economic diversification for decades.
How do you make the tourism product a viable product, given the fact that it gets 2 knock on its head, so to speak, with the water issue when tourists were leaving establishments down at Crown Point because of that water issue. And then the second knock that it got was a state of emergency in place, because that's what the Chief Secretary said, it gets some form of a knock. So how do you make the tourism product a viable product where it becomes a strong revenue earner for the island?
Right. So Curtis talk about the upgrading the quality of accommodation to 3-star, 4-star, Elephant Tree coming, Marriott's. So we had to look at the accommodation. But tourism is not only accommodation and airlift. And I think the conversation, you know, in the space for tourism is be looking at hotels and guest houses and things. But tourism for me, and I've said it in international conferences, tourism for me is basically the marketing and sale of a people. You see the people? The people, because nobody ain't going on no island, there are nobody, you know, because you have no tourism there. The people, because they say nobody lives there, but nobody don't go there. So it's the people, their culture, their history, and their environment to the rest of the world. So if you frame tourism in that concept, to build a tourism product, all the components are listening. What are we doing in terms of our attraction, our environmental issue, the Buku Reef? We have to build that into our prime attraction. Our history, how are we selling our cultural products? We have to develop those things. So it's a journey, and we have a clear pathway to that in the comprehensive economic development pathway as to how we are going to treat with those things. Some of those areas of focus. For instance, if you permit me, I will just read, not all. One of the things we are going to do, we are going to enhance the skills and knowledge in the creative sector, the cultural economy, right? Through training programs, including our artist in resident initiative, workshop, educational projects focused in areas such as art, craft, dance, and other traditional cultural art forms, right? 2, promoting Tobago's cultural heritage as a unique selling point for the island tourism product, showcasing traditional festivals, historical sites, cultural practices to attract visitors to be eager to experience Tobago authentic
Right,
culture.
so let me cut into you there.
Let me
because
just
those
make this
plans
one.
sound really good.
No, but you see,
then
no,
you have
you
the
asked
tour
me,
operators.
you asked me, how do we propose to make the island tourism product viable? And I'm saying that we have detailed and precisely and lucidly articulate what we propose to do. When the Minister of Finance did this in Trinidad, he had no choice but to give you the money. You know? That is the level of work we are doing in this file-led administration.
I am talking about the corner.
This is not Joel Jack and them who just coming up with a budget and writing all kind of thing.
We sticking to the
proper
facts.
Work we doing.
We sticking to the facts, right?
Right.
So we under
Well,
your administration, right? So we
Ah,
asking you the questions, right? So here I'm looking at a corner of the tourism sector, the tour operators.
Yes.
You see recently they had a fight between 2 tour operators and cutlass come out, tourists stand up right there, set a commotion. Then the next one where a tour operator boat sank because you have the overcrowding issue, right? So they're actually flouting whatever OSHA's standard that's supposed to happen on a tour operator boat, right? What are you doing for the tour operators, and what are you doing to boost that corner where I'm sitting in London and I can book a tour operator sitting in Tobago, and I can come down in Tobago and say, here's what, I want tour operator A because I booked him like an Expedia kind of service.
Well, that's part of the digital transformation, but I like the idea and the question you asked about what is happening on the reef and the tour operators and that whole sector that needs to be regulated. And I made the point last night on TTT that the biggest outstanding issue for us in Tobago, this is not about money, you know. This is about the completion of the self-government project. If we don't complete that self-government project, and most importantly, afforded the constitutional right to make laws to govern ourselves in Tobago, because our people are not free unless they are governed by their own laws. Now, the problem we are having with the tour operators, I love you asked me, you set me down a road I wanted to go. The problem we are having with the tour operators, there is no law, there is no, we could make policy, but if there is no legal enforcement of the policy prescription, the waywardness and the wildness will continue. And therefore, that's why the completion of the internal self-government project remains the #1 priority item for Tobago, not money, you know. This issue with Tobago is not a money issue, you know. It is a human right issue, our right to make laws to govern the way we conduct our business in Tobago. I told Philip Alexander last night on TTT, I said, you're not supposed to be making no law in Port of Spain to govern me in Tobago. And that's the way I feel about this issue. This is not a money issue. This autonomy issue has been going on for too long. And therefore, what the Farley administration would have done since this government change is present a comprehensive pathway to the Prime Minister so that we will achieve this autonomy in the shortest order before our projection is before the end of fiscal 2026. We need to bring conclusion to this issue, because you're going to ask me about this wildness down there next year if we have this. God permits that we are here, Curtis and I, keep us alive, healthy, to have this conversation with you next year. This is a serious issue, and I am very, very passionate about this internal self-government thing, because all we do...
How do you describe the relation between Tobago and Port of Spain now? Is there a clear-cut dialogue happening, clear-cut communication, no controversy?
It are no pit bull in Port of Spain here?
Oh, my word. Listen, okay, so Mr. Williams, one of the things that stood out for me was the amendment to the NIB rates. Is that a cost? I mean, all I'm seeing is that that's a cost going up for the business people. How are businesses going to mitigate or move around that? Because you have the employer has to pay national insurance on behalf of the employee. That's how it works, right?
Two
right.
Yeah.
And then the employee also has to pay a third.
Yeah.
Right. So, the proposal that was tabled in Port of Spain when the budget was rolled out was that the NIB rates are going to be hiked up, but it's implementing a 3% increase in the contribution rate effective the 5th of 2026, January, right? And it's going to be done on a phased approach. I am simply asking, is that going to be a cost for businesses, and is that going to be a hard knock on the bottom line of businesses?
A lot of folks probably don't understand what the NIB system or the NIS system is. It's an insurance, and it's putting aside funds or money for instances when you probably get injured or you reach a time of retirement. And basically that's what the fund is all about. Now the age of moving the fund to 65, so that you're no longer at 60 when you used to get it, you're now going to 65. But the critical part about it is that the part that I put the truth is, that's tax deductible.
Oh.
Yes, yes, yes. So I'm going into my filing as an expense, and I can claim it back. They could claim it back. So don't look at it as being a bad thing, because it's all seen about your employees. Right? You put in aside funds for them, and it goes a long way, because I know some folks retire from some companies or leave some companies, and the only thing they give them is a handshake at the end, nothing else. Right? So the NIS do help a lot of folks going out, especially where some of my same business folks not giving you nothing. There's no pension plan in place, there's nothing. And all they tell you, thank you, you get your last salary, and that's it. You may get a plate of food if they decide to give you a plate of food, and that's it for you. So I'm not knocking the NIS system, because I understand insurance. Because I've been an insurance agent many years ago, and I understand insurance. So I do have an issue with it. But again, it's over a period of time, so I know it will just slowly creep in over the period of time, instead of a one big dash going forward. So I have no issues with that per se.
The minister went to town on what is the state of the national insurance system. And he says that, okay, there's annual benefit expenditure is well over 6 billion, which represented an increase of more than 65% over the last 2 decades. He's saying that it's at a crisis point, and of course he's blaming his opponents, but are you stunned by all the things that he outlined when it came to the national insurance system?
I had some insights on this whole NIS system. Now, you as a sole trader trying to apply NIS, it's very difficult to do that. So again, there are little loopholes or little things that need to fix in the system, so that a barber who operating or a hairdresser can pay towards the system. A taxi driver can pay towards the system. And these entities who are operating as self-employed cannot, at the present stage, pay towards the system just like that. So it's important that you understand this, that you have to have at least one employee. Oh, I'm self-employed. How am I getting one employee? I'm the employee. But it can't work like that for you. So again, you're losing valuable money that you're supposed to be getting in the system. So it's important that we look at all the other facets of it and we tweak it and get it working for the self-employed or the sole trader, as we want to call these folks.
Yeah, we're coming back to this budget full of goodies, so we take a short break. We are live on Tobago Channel 5 and Tobago Channel 5 Facebook page, Tobago Channel 5 YouTube channel. You can join us, but we'll take a break now, and when we come back, lots more.
Need furniture and appliances for your home at affordable prices? It's time to visit JG's Furniture and Appliances Limited at their showroom at Smithfield No. 2 in Scarborough. There's more room to shop, more furniture and appliances, more brands to choose from, all at the same affordable price. Get everything you need to furnish your home, like stoves, fridges, washing machines, couches, dining sets. They even have swing chairs, school desks, chase lounges, sports sets, garden benches, day beds, and coffee tables. JG's is perfect for gift ideas for new and established homeowners. A wide variety of furniture and appliances. After 35 years, JG's is still Tobago's top choice for furniture and appliances. Visit their showrooms either at Orange Hill Road or Smithfield No. 2. JG's, make your dream home come true.
You can now get whatever you need whenever you need it anywhere in Tobago with Tobago. Your meals, medication, groceries, and shopping all delivered directly to you. No more hassle, no more stress. Get the Tobago app today on Google Play or Apple App Store.
That's TAPPOGO and let us deliver to you.
Check our website at www.tapogo.app or call the experts at 494-TOGO and 484-4746. Tobago. Relax. We will get it to you. Tobago's at your service.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
The Tobago Blue Food Festival 2025 is on October 19th, 2025. Enjoy live entertainment, cultural performances, and the best local vibes with good people. Don't miss the festival where food meets culture. The Tobago Blue Food Festival 2025, Sunday, October 19th at Bloody Bay Recreational Grounds. Check out their website at www.tobagofestivalscommission.com or follow on social media at Tobago Festivals for more.
Nothing sweeter than to be born young.
Need furniture and appliances for your home at affordable prices? It's time to visit JG's Furniture and Appliances Limited at their showroom at Smithfield No. 2 in Scarborough. There's more room to shop, more furniture and appliances, more brands to choose from, all at the same affordable price. Get everything you need to furnish your home, like stoves, fridges.
Welcome back to the After Budget Show event. We are talking about the budget, the national budget, which was presented on Monday, October 13th. And basically, we are just highlighting on all the points and seeing how it's going to impact you, the consumer, and you, the members of the business community. One of the things that I found that was really, really good, Tobagonians placed on state boards in Trinidad. Elaborate on what's the rationale for that and why.
Well, let me say from the outset that is a position, a very forceful position of the Chief Secretary. Because you see what has happened, when these state enterprises were established, the country, in the main, most of them, the country was not being run by two executives. The THA was not public and in existence in most cases of those state enterprises. So now you have a country that is being run by two executives, the cabinet and the island government of Tobago by an executive council. So therefore, how do you ensure that the ideas and the concerns of Tobagonians expressed through the Tobago Island government reaches the decision space of those state enterprises? It means therefore our governance configuration now requires that Tobagonians representing the Tobago House Assembly Island government are present in those decision-making spaces. So this is just part of an enhancement of the governance arrangement of the national space of Trinidad and Tobago, because those state enterprises are not established to serve Trinidad alone. WASA has functionalities and responsibility to the people of Tobago, and their functions in Tobago and their operations in Tobago must reflect the strategic direction in where the THA wants to go with the island. How do we ensure that those strategic inputs, data and direction inform the decision of WASA as he operates in Tobago, and not only what is taking place or what the directives are coming from Port of Spain? So this is not a favor they are doing to Tobagonians. This is, for me, for good governance, is a decent requirement. And therefore, it's why we celebrate it, I think, and it goes back to the internal self-government argument I'm making. The other point I want to add to that is that not only on state board, because of the configuration of the national governance system now, the Tobago House of Assembly should be, by constitutional mandate, required to appoint senators. We should be afforded to appoint a minimum of 3 senators in the Senate to ensure that Tobago's issues as it relates to legislation and legislating are present in the Senate. Mm-hmm. Also, because we had the 2 representatives, but remember, there's a Senate, and therefore, the opposition appointing senators, the government appointing senators, the president appointing senator, and the government of Tobago in the national parliament that are making laws to govern us. Our island government has nobody there to carry the concerns of the people of Tobago. So you see, there are some governance issues that we as Tobagonians and Trinbagonians has to face. And these are the kinds of conversation the Chief Secretary and his team has been having with the new government in Port of Spain. So when you're seeing these things happening, and it is difficult for any reasonable thinking Tobagonian or Trinidadian to resist these kinds of arguments.
Has it been determined yet what state boards those Tobagonians are going to be put on, and who are those Tobagonians that are going to go across the waters?
Well, I can't see into the future.
But I thought in the conversation you said, okay.
The minister did listed some of the state boards like Republic Bank, FCB, and I know we have a representative on FCB, Exim Bank. And this is not the first time that a Kamala Prasad-led central government is doing this thing. When the PP government was in place in 2010, 2015, I served as the THA representative, as the Tobagonian on the Exim Bank board for 3 years. So it's not a new phenomenon in that sense. When somebody else, when a party other than the PNM is seated in the central government, you know, and it's not to me a favor or I don't want to say a blessing, but it's not it's to me it's a governance requirement. And if you are thinking progressive governance, it's a simple understanding that look, the voices and concerns of every constituent in the national space must be afforded an opportunity in the national space, in the decision-making space.
Does it then polish or give a different angle or type of decision-making for those boards when a Tobagonian sits on that board? What do you think, Mr. Williams?
Yeah, definitely. I remember one time speaking to folks in Trinidad and telling them Charleville, and I tried to tell them how to get to Charleville, and they say, oh, Charleville is just a couple miles apart. And I tell them, no, it looks like that in miles, but if you're actually on the terrain, you will realize the terrain is so up and down, corners and turning. So they thought travel was just a straight highway and you just get there because they don't understand the Tobago topography. No, that's to tell you the same thing now. Folks sitting in Port of Spain, sometimes they just don't understand what's happening in Tobago. I mean, happening on the ground, the pressure that you feel to travel between the two islands, they don't understand that because they come here on vacation. But I go to Trinidad to conduct business on a weekly basis. So you understand when you don't get a flight, how it affects you. A man sitting in Port of Spain don't have to come to Tobago to do what he have to come to Tobago to do, to go on the beach and relax and have beers. That's what they come in Tobago to do. But we have to go to Trinidad to conduct business. So it's essential that the connectivity between the two islands stays essential. And I'll use the word essential because you can't be looking to say you want to make a profit. Anytime you start to think about profit by connecting the two islands, you're lost. Yeah. You're totally lost. Yeah. And we want Cal to make profit and we want the Port Authority to make profit. No, it didn't meant to be like that. Yeah. It's a service, it's an essential service. It's supposed to be like a highway to Trinidad. And that meant that tomorrow morning I was able to see that, or they called me and said, okay, Curtis, we need your presence in Trinidad. I was able to get a flight to go down to conduct business just as everybody else could leave San Fernando and come to Port of Spain.
Catch the bus and come from San Fernando to
Port of Spain.
So
and that is critical. So sitting on these boards, you will be able to have an intimate knowledge of what's happening on the ground in terms of business, in terms of everything, just living on the island. You will know that when someone's saying something there at a board level, he said, hey, no, that really don't happen in Tobago because it is A, B, C, and D. And even decisions at the banking level. We know banks and all the risk managers, the risk people, you know, the same loan you may go in Trinidad and you get approved with it as compared to Tobago because they don't see, they're not seeing. The numbers is smaller. We only 60,000. And how much reaches we have? What's the average spend in Tobago? These are the things that you have to understand. We know that. We know the majority of Tobago work with the Tobago Assembly, let's say about 60%, and we know what the average spend looks like. We understand what your pocket looks like going into the grocery. They in Trinidad don't have a clue. They don't understand that. So you're making decisions for Trinidad and Tobago, not understanding the real feeling of the Tobago people.
Let me just add something. Curtis would have said. So you have, in terms of Trinidad and Tobago, you have two societies. Tobago and Trinidad. Two people, right? Two different economy. And as such, a policy that may be appropriate for an oil and gas economy like Trinidad may not be appropriate for Tobago, which is a tourism government-led service-driven economy. And therefore, in that context, it is always important that the nuances that are unique to Tobago feature in the decision-making process. And that's why the importance of getting the Tobago representative in these national decision-making space becomes critical. For instance, you mentioned that the Chief Secretary said that the tourism sector took a knock because of the state of emergency. We wake up to, and that's why it takes us back to the internal self-government issue. We wake up in the morning and Port of Spain declare a state of emergency because they have gang thing up in prison, where the prison
maximum security.
They have thing there, man job thing in a prison with Jones. They have nothing to do with Tobago, you know. But we have to go under a state of emergency because they are misbehave at Trinidad. And that is the problem. So why they didn't do and we weren't consulted and thing. We just wake up and they don't, just like when Israel said they could occupy Gaza and there's a state of emergency. Those things have to change. For this place to function properly, those nuances and those kinds of constitutional colonization has to be removed from the national space. And Tobago has to be given its rightful place in how this country functions and how it operates and how it is governed. And I just wanted to make that point. Right?
Tobago is going to be participating in the budget debate. Does Tobago have a louder voice in Port of Spain?
Well, we have the Chief Secretary and two representatives along there. We have two lieutenants in the National Parliament. And we will arm them with the necessary ammunition, and we will load the clip and we'll send them to empty the matic.
What exactly, I mean, yes, they go in with all the things that, they have to mention, but what is the biggest topic that they are expected to lay on the table or mention to parliamentarians, because they're getting the entire air of the parliamentarians as well as the entire air of Trinidad?
Well, the agenda or the strategy or the narrative, I can't shape that, because there's an executive head that governs this thing. So the chief secretary will want to know what message he wants the nation to hear from Tobago through his representatives in the national parliament. When that is established, then he calls his technical people to put the message together for him to vet and say, right, go down and say what I want you to say. Tell them how Tobago feel about this budget, but what are the outstanding projects that need to be completed, and probably the internal self-government might be a priority one to say, well, look, you need to complete this thing. The thing start nice, but you have to make it nicer by completing this thing to internal self-government before the end of fiscal 2026, and start to make some demands and let it beat some in the parliament. That's how the thing have to work, you know.
I get you. What worries me the most in the budget is the fact that the public servants negotiations are going to go back to the table at a level of 10%. Can this country afford a 10% and upward increase in wages for public servants? Do you think? Because there are public servants here, not in Tobago House of Assembly, if I understand it carefully, not so?
Yeah, what?
Public servants.
Yeah, man, there are public servants
Yes.
in Tobago.
Right. So if you carry up your wage bill, does that affect your final bottom line as a THA?
Promise made, promise kept. Another word the man say for this yesterday.
But we can't afford it. Something that's 10%.
The Minister of Finance crunched the numbers and say he could pay the 10%. I am not going to sit here to second guess the minister. It have all kind of pundits in this space, you know. They were saying the oil price too low and the oil price too high, and then the man say, me use the OPEC formula, you know, and everybody shut up. So me I know where the man getting numbers from. I don't have the metrics or the matrix that the minister used. I'm saying we have to trust the Minister of Finance, right? I know it's so ambitious, right? And people understand the depth of the financial crisis, but the minister, in his wisdom, look at the financial forecast of the country going forward and arrive at the decision that the country can afford the 10% they have promised. And he came to the National Parliament yesterday and said that he's sending back an offer to the CPO at 10%. Promise made, promise kept.
What was a big wow for the business community in that budget? I mean, yes, you had plenty goodies. Yes, you had lots of other things which everybody smiled about. But business community would probably say, well, this is going to help us out in ease of doing business. This is going to help us out at the port. This is going to help us out with paying taxes, paying our salaries. What exactly was the biggest wow in the budget for the business community?
Let me take it to Tobago, and I think that Tobago getting that 5% and the finance secretary being pleased with that, I know she will be able to crunch the numbers, and there's some outstanding liabilities that the TJ have for the business committee, and I know some of them will be met. That's the owing of the contractors and suppliers. I know some of them will be met, so I'm happy that she got some more resources and she will be able to crunch the numbers, and some of these liabilities will be met. One thing that I didn't see, and I spoke about it before, it was the land license. No one spoke about the land license that normally affects the people who want to buy properties on the island. So I didn't hear that at all in the budget. I think somewhere, maybe when the debate goes on, the chief may get them to talk about it, because it's critical for us that we talk about the land license, whether we're going to repeal it, whether we're going to let the THA take the whole operational aspect of it and treat it in a manner that it is so deserved, because it really was hampering a bit of development on the island, and I think it's something that the chief did talk about it, the chief secretary spoke about it before, and I'm hoping that something do happen about it within the near future.
I think, just to add, I think the preferred position of the Chief Secretary on the land license issue is to have that administrative responsibility transferred to the office of the Chief Secretary. It's the same point we're making with people sitting on state boards. You have a Minister of Finance adjudicating on land license for Tobago without understanding the nuances of the situation in Tobago. And therefore, there is no emergency on his part to grant a land license or to deny it, because he doesn't understand the topography of the land. And therefore, Tobago should make that decision and not Port of Spain. And that's why the internal self-government project remains the most critical issue for Tobagonians. We have to understand this thing. We're celebrating $3 billion, and yes, we have money to spend. But when you're spending money and you're still constitutionally colonized, where are you? People still making law, making decisions for import that you should be making owned by you. And therefore,
yeah.
No, this is a
stick up in right there. Stick up in. We need to go for a break. This is the After Budget Show. We are live on Tobago Channel 5, Tobago Channel 5 Facebook, Tobago Channel 5 YouTube channel. We will be back after these to talk lots more.
Cathedral Credit Union is celebrating big. Get up to $81,000 at just 0.8% interest with our anniversary loan. And because Christmas is in the air, we're spreading cheer with up to $60,000 at only 1%. Visit cathedralcutt.com or call 235-6947 today. Cathedral Credit Union. Member owned, member focused.
Vodel Supermart and Pharmacy. Almost everything, almost anything, almost anytime, almost every day. We in every season for every reason. Vodel Supermart and Pharmacy. Almost everything you want from a pharmacy. Just ask our pharmacist. Well, almost. We are here to serve all of you all of the time. Vodel Supermart and Pharmacy. 141 Chauvin Road, Buku. Call our pharmacy on 610-7634 or our supermart on 768-0723 and 766-0476. Vodel Supermart and Pharmacy.
Escape to elegance at Le Chateau Suites Tobago. Gated privacy, breathtaking villas, unforgettable memories, where Caribbean dreams become reality.
Rise and shine in the morning is just part of my day.
From 6:30 to 8:30 every day. Foreign man says so.
It informs me of what happens in Tobago.
I find it to be so informative. Every aspect of Tobago affairs is being discussed there. So I will continue to look at Rise and Shine. That's my thing.
Monday to Friday, 6:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m.
I love Rise and Shine.
Have you visited Tobago Channel 5's Facebook or Instagram pages lately? Well, check them out now for all the interviews and up-to-date news. Remember to like, share and follow for Tobago news and current affairs information at your fingertips.
Welcome back to the After Budget Show here on Tobago Channel 5, Tobago Channel 5 from Facebook page and our YouTube channel. We were talking during the break about having a digital Tobago. Expound on that. You have more money in your hand, but you got a slew of paperwork. Are you just going to be engulfed in paperwork? Up to his head, I walk into the Chief Secretary's office and then I'll be like, Chief, are you there? And you know, he's going to be overwhelmed with paper, or is it that you're going to go digital?
Well, the Secretary for Finance and the Chief Secretary have expressly presented the fact that they want to deploy a higher level of uptake of technology and technical solution in the operation of the THA. But what has happened, as it will, and I was just saying to you all on set, that to manage this fund, this $2.something billion, $3 billion, $3.7 billion on an analog system, a paper-based system, is a very difficult exercise. And that is the reason why the teachers always have negative Auditor General reports, because you just can't find the paper missing, you're moving there, ministries moving around and all of that. But when you have a digital financial management system or integrated financial management system that could manage your things, all the things are digitized and the system will generate your financial reports, so accounting becomes very easy and seamless. And therefore there's a national program that the Ministry of Finance is leading called the Integrated Financial Management System, called IFMIS, and Tobago is part of that pilot project. And therefore we have prepared ourselves since 2022, 2023, ready to go live. But the project has had some teething problems from Porter's PA with free balance and all of that. But the Secretary of Finance is committed. She's ready to go because she is the lead in that project. And And she has been the lead even before she became the Secretary of Finance. And she is dead ready to go on a digital platform because you provide, you know, a more relevant management system. And we are living in the age of technology. And the philosophy of the Secretary of Finance is to make the THA a data intelligent institution, meaning that we drive our business processes by data, we drive our decision by data, because you don't operate in a vacuum. And therefore, parallel to that, how aligning human resource strategy is to make the workers of the THA data literate. So this is not a guessing, you know. These things are really lined up strategically in the development pathway. So you want to make the THA a data intelligence unit, but the workers has to be data literate, meaning they have to be able to interpret data, they have to package the data, they have to be able to do it in schematics and so forth, interpret what the data is saying, because there are messages in the information that is packaging the data. And therefore our training have to move our HR, our people to that level of bringing them data literate. So this is not guesswork that is happening. I think this experience of administration in Tobago's Assembly is the best Tobago have had since the House of Assembly.
And with that, we go to our audience for a question, perhaps to interact with my two prestigious guests. And I think we are just about ready. Let's have your name and where are you from?
I'm Adlian Dyer from Belgarden. And I would just like to give a comment. I support Mr. Curtis Williams' suggestion that sole traders should be given the opportunity to benefit and contribute to the national insurance. I believe that this would provide self-employed individuals like the farmers in the market and the taxi drivers. It would help them to protect themselves in times of hardship. It could be a sort of safety net.
I appreciate that. And it's something that we spoke to the NIB folks about, and I hope that someone is listening us and understanding the challenges, especially in Tobago. Again, understanding the environment. We have so much self-employed persons in Tobago, as you said, sole traders, we call them in business, and they cannot get onto the system for some strange reason. And the system must recognize them that these people do retire at some point in time. They're more than willing to contribute to the system, but you just don't want the money.
No, let me just tell you how the country needs to solve that problem. And I mentioned this to the Minister of Finance in our conversation. What we need to do in this country is to ensure that every citizen of the working age has an income tax number and is on the income tax system. So that's your reference point. When you are on the income tax system, you will show up as whether you are a sole trader, you are a farmer, barber, whatever, and you use that as the metric for them to pay their national insurance, because it will tell you what their occupation is or are. And what it also does, it provides the data the data that the country needs to do what we call the mean test. Because you know they talk, and that, so you use that information, the tax information of the individual, because everybody is on the tax system. So you can use that to say, well, okay, this person's income is not of the living income wage, so we have to give them food support. There are children going to school. But the problem is that we are not building data intelligent institution in this country. So we're operating in VAPs. And let me tell you another problem. Here we are. We're talking about color and flights and color to make a profit. But you know, this country, Trinidad and Tobago, subsidizing the travel of non-resident, non-citizen between Trinidad and Tobago, because they might pay the same price like we, and it's subsidized. They should be paying the full price to travel between Trinidad and Tobago. You could go to America and get any subsidy from Tron.
Have you put that to Port of Spain?
Call Tanko and ask him.
That's a great point. Then
we
really important.
And even in healthcare as well too.
We have to think about what we are doing as a nation. And if we build, if you put in the digital system in CAL, we solve the problem immediately, you know? Because as you come there, where is your national ID? You're not a citizen. Your price is 600, not 4.
So if I also cancel my reservation too, it could actually record it properly.
So we are not building system that captures data and become intelligent and use data to drive how we make decisions and how we do business. That's a fundamental problem. I've had this conversation with the governor of the central bank and the deputy governor. You know, it's something that we really need. And you see, the important thing is that we can transform and digitize the country through our data requirements. Because if you just do digitization and you're not capturing the data to make decisions, you're in trouble, you're wasting time. You're just like the paper system. You know, so when you build in a digital platform for the operation of an institution, one of the things you have to ask yourself is what are the type of data set I need to make the decision? What are the kind of reports I have to generate and what data I will need to feed into that reporting? And then you design the system to operate and to provide that in the back end processes.
Let's shift a little bit. One of the things that was spoken about throughout this whole year and even in prior years too is the forex supply. Are you satisfied with what was mentioned in the budget, whether nothing at all or a little bit or a sprinkling? What's going on with the forex? And when it comes to the budget too, are you satisfied about what was put into that budget for forex?
Well, as Anslem mentioned, there was nothing much about the forex issue mentioned into the budget. He even emphasized that because Tobago will get that tourism trust, then we now could build out our own forex by getting foreign direct investment, getting tourists on the island, and we now could supplement whatever the shortfall we have on the island. But we need something sustainable, and we need to take something now, because we have been in a situation now where small business don't have access to forex, and it's becoming a real nightmare for us. We thought that the Exim Bank would have done something because it was banter about that they were coming up with some sort of formula for SMEs. Well, when we look at the data that we just spit out about all these big companies getting all these millions of dollars and the SMEs not getting anything. So again, the ability of having probably a Tobagonian on the Exim Bank board will have tell them, hey, you guys only seen about these big guys. Now, what about the small and the micro business in Tobago who's struggling? The guys and them who bring in stuff from abroad, the retail, you know, the suitcase trade they used to call them. I used to do it, I can tell you. And we always want cash because when you go to the US, they believe in cash. Cash is what gives you the value as compared to if you're going with a check or if you're going with a credit card. And now the credit card balance gone down to 2005. I don't know how much you can do with that. Right? I couldn't even pay my hotel sometimes with that kind of money. So it's becoming a nightmare and a challenge for business. So I think it's something that should have been addressed. I think, again, subsequently, I expect through him, answer them that they will bring it up with the minister and see how we could treat it for small business.
Okay, I think the forex crisis has to do in large measure in what we are exporting and how we are owning forex, right? We have not developed the tourism product to export tourism services, so people come here and they pay in US or pounds or whatever to consume what we are offering. Barbados and the other islands are not suffering. You could go to Antigua and push a credit if you're EC or US, because they are driven by tourism, right? So and that's why I made the point earlier that Tobago is prime. The matic is ready and loaded for Tobago to help the country solve this forex problem. And therefore, this national government is recognizing that the development of Tobago is a development of the national economy. And a country cannot achieve its full potential if a significant component of it, like Tobago, is not being promoted or given or afforded the opportunity to self-actualize. So that is one point. What we have to do, we have to create new areas in terms of forex earning. And that's where the diversification conversation starts. What are the sectors that are already available to own for us to build on? Or we have to scale. And that's why the minister is in his budget. He's still, the structure of the economy is still gas and oil. So he's trying to scale that and he's promoting that through the new finds and the new discovery and the new interest that is being shown by oil companies and so forth. Because the economy is locked. It will take some time for us to pivot and shift the economy and create bigger foreign exchange earning sectors outside of gas and oil.
The cruise shipping season is coming up.
And that is part of the
Can
tourism product.
Tobago capitalize on that to get forex?
Well, the tourism market, the cruise market is a very, how to call it, is not that you could just get a cruise ship and thing. Cruise, they sell itineraries and not destinations. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So here is the thing.
We go in Puerto Rico, or they could fit into that.
Right, so they have an itinerary. So they have a Puerto Rico, a Jamaica, a so and so. So that is the itinerary of the cruise. And then you know that Tobago may be part of the itinerary. And that's how they come to Tobago. So you have to understand how the industry works, right? What it provides an opportunity. Well, we need to ramp up the infrastructure. We need to align ourselves with those cruise entities and ensure that we form and we get on more itineraries with more cruise providers. And therefore, so that has to be the strategy in the build out. But the reality is that the country has a lock, it's kind of locked into the oil and gas, and we are now trying to ease ourselves out of it. And we have to think strategically and fast as to what are the new areas. The areas we can do, we can export knowledge. How are we dealing with that? The technology is here. We can have Tobagonians sitting here and working for an international agency and being paid in US dollars, you know. And Curtis, 50,000 US coming in every month. And it is going up because you're working for. No, but you see, we have to think. Because the technology and COVID has shown us that the technology have changed the global working experience. So you can work remotely from anywhere in the world. You don't have to be in China to work for a China company again. And we have to decide, how do we export our knowledge products? How do we export our cultural products? Those are things, how we package them and export them. Those are things I think we can really...
Is going to the travel market lucrative for Tobago?
Well, it's a good opportunity because that's where we go and tell the world what we have to sell for them to come and consume. But how do we do the packaging? How do we package it? How do we make Tobago? How do we sell the island and its people, its environment, its history, its artifacts? How do we package that to excite the international population, the international consumers to fight for seats on plane to come here? That is the conversation. How do we do that? And we have to sit down and we have to think through the things and put it together. So when I deliver Tobago in a World Traffic Market, we can't hold people here. Benoit and them have to turn the place into a hotel. To accommodate people. Sean and them have to turn this place into a hotel.
We're closing 2025.
They might send you up by the hotel school.
We're closing 2025 with rum, spirits, beer, and cigarettes, and taxes galore across those four.
100% increase.
We're shutting down 2025 when we're a party country, so to speak, and we like to party for Christmas. We are in a staff party, so we are in a pool party, so we like to lime. We lime in. But guess what? We have more expensive rum, spirits, beer, cigarettes,
so
and the consignment and all this.
And was immediate effect.
Yes, but wait.
So that mean all the price gone up?
Prices go
for Calabar?
They may go up.
You're answering two questions. With two questions with one go because we need to wrap up. I'm getting the signal to wrap up. Oh, and we also have to include in that as well a question from our esteemed audience. So we're going with the rum, spirits, beer, and cigarettes.
Well, as you can see, these things are controlled. Angus Stewart actually tell you how much to sell the alcohol for. Cigarettes, what's the name? West Indian Tobacco, through Massina, which is the distributor, they actually set the price for it. So you really can't do much about that. Who have that vice and willing to consume, you just will be extra for your vice. We know that, and that's the nature of the beast. There's no two ways, you can't get away from that. Yeah, and you can live without it, but it's just as I said, who have the vice and willing to consume, etc., you just pay the necessary price. But the prices are all set on those items, I know, at a retail level. So I shouldn't worry too much about it. The consumption will still be there, and you want to drink, you will still drink. No matter what the price is, you will still drink. Just to piggyback on some of the things you were speaking about with the Forex and the tourism, you must keep in mind, and he did mention it earlier on, that coming to Tobago You can't just come for sand, sea, and that, because everybody's selling that. So you have to make your product a little unique, right? So for instance, you have 400 guests at a hotel there, and the rain starts to fall the whole day. What happens? What the 400 guests will do? Because they can't go to the beach. So what will they do? So that's why we have to look at other avenues of developing other things, as we said, the historical sites, maybe some museum, all the other entertainments, even so the forts and all these things have to be there, so that you could now have guided tours. You could have probably someone coming in and give a session on the artifacts and all that good stuff. So tourism in its whole, as I said, is just not only sand, sea, and sun. You must look at it as a holistic thing. Yeah. So there are other aspects or other players in the industry that you need to develop, and you have to work on it.
What was the rationale for actually boosting those taxes on those specific commodities?
I think, and I will piggyback on what Curtis would have said, those things are what we call discretionary expenditure for persons. If you want to buy rum, you buy a rum. You want to smoke cigarette, you buy a cigarette. But also I think it's a punitive intervention to prevent or to reduce consumption because of the health impact, cancer, accidents on the road with the drinking alcohol and so forth. So I think it's a strategy to reduce the consumption of those things. And remember, most of those things are imported, and therefore they are putting pressure on the forex situation, the already bad forex situation. So when you impose those kinds of levy on them, it reduces the demand, so the import will be less drawdown on the forex, and then it also reduces the health spend on persons who are consuming those things, the accidents on the road, the lung cancer, you know, and all the social deviance that comes with the alcohol consumption, right? I am happy. I'm an old man now. Rum and cigarette doesn't really attract me in a serious way, and I say it's discretionary. If I feel to take a drink, I will look for Curtis. There you go, bye.
And with that, we go to a question from our audience.
I would just like to state that there are a lot of unsightly buildings in both Scarborough and Roxborough, and I would like to know if there are any plans in place to renovate or demolish these buildings to improve the sightseeing experience in the tourism industry.
All right, so who's new?
Yeah, I'm happy that you asked that question, right? And part of the development pathway proposes how do we treat with the expenditure on public infrastructure and public buildings. So there's a whole program for that. I drove through Roxborough on the day when Watson's father funeral took place, and I looked at where the Inland Revenue Office used to be, and I'm saying, wow, we need to do something about that thing. We really need to do a real cleanup, upgrade, demolition, if that be the need. There's a new administrative complex in Roxborough. I think it needs to be power washed and paint over, or you put some cladding on it. You know, I've made the call to the chief administrator. I sent picture, but I really am share how concerned about the state of some of the public buildings in Tobago and even private buildings, and we have to have a policy as to how we treat with the built environment, especially some of our historical buildings. We have left the Great House in Kendall Estate in the forest there, and then a fire come and burn down the thing. A Great House, you know, the estate house, right? The one in Belgarden, the Belgarden Great House needs some upgrading. It is there. I don't want it to be left to ruin. And therefore, the THA in the development pathway has a program with projecting expenses that will deal with public buildings in that regard. Very important question as part of how we treat our built environment going forward.
I'm getting the signal for wrap up, so let's have closing remarks. Mr. Williams?
Yeah, sure. As I mentioned earlier on, and I'm happy for the spend that Tobago have, and I know the Secretary will outline in detail now the plans, and she will online put in value to them, projects and so forth, so that we at the business community now could see what's happening coming up, and we could put ourselves in position to take advantage of it. And I hope they give us the opportunity to do that, and we get ourselves keeping in mind that it's a bigger spend, and we want that trickle-down effect in Tobago. We want the money to be passed on to Tobagonians, which is important. Just as Anslem said, we want to big up the Tobagonians, and I hope the Assembly understand that it's important that when it comes through the business in Tobago, it goes all around Tobago, and I want to see that reality.
Okay. Well, I think the budget generally, as it relates to Tobago, is really a statement of saying, well, look, we see you, we hear you, and you are entitled to your fair share. And I think that alone to me is a statement that is pointing in the right direction. It is for us as Tobagonians to continue to organize ourselves, to uplift ourselves, to increase our knowledge and understanding of what is happening around us and in the global and even regional and national spaces, and to ensure that our rights and entitlements are not trampled upon, and to continue, and I'm saying it to all of us as Tobagonians, and to continue to demand a conclusion to this internal self-government issue. It is lingering for too long. I think that issue is probably older than I am, and therefore we are not asking anybody for any favor. It is our human right to determine our future, to determine how we live, how we govern ourselves, and what laws we want to make to govern ourselves. That should not be outsourced to anybody, whether in Port of Spain or in England. It was in England one time, and now they outsource it to Port of Spain. We have to take it back. There is a thing called island rights and a people's right. It is our right to determine how we live in this space. Right? And it is our right to mismanage ourselves too.
Right. You are viewing the After Budget Show here on Tobago Channel 5. This is how we pull the curtains down on this fantastic show. My beautiful, esteemed guests who were entertaining in more ways than one. Curtis Williams, Chairman of the Tobago Division of the Trinidad Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce, as well as Anslem Richards, Chief Technical Advisor for the THA. And we continue to put the spotlight on our representatives, Tobago East and West representatives, as they get set to contribute to the debate on the budget 2025-2026. Tobago has most certainly gotten what it wants, but let's see what happens in the future. Port of Spain has certainly gotten the attention of Tobagonians. We have gotten what we want. Let's see if development goes a step further, a step deeper. Let's see if tourism gets polished up some more. From all of us and the entire team led by Commoner Payne, I am bidding you good night, be safe, and my throat. Yes. So good night, everybody, and thank you for viewing.